Okay, I'm just going to do a quick rundown of this example I asked you to do for practice number 4. Discuss the conclusion you might make for the sample and population. Now I'm going to really only probably do one in detail, and then discuss the sample variability, what it is, and how it's going to impact my conclusion. So if I go to number 2, I can see that there's quite a bit of overlap. Like there's almost, I don't know, the overlap happens between here and here. Not quite 25%, but well, actually, it's a little bit more than 25% of the A group. So it's about, I don't know, 40%. Doesn't really matter for the conclusion that we talk about percentages, but there is a fair bit of overlap. That's obvious. So we state that there is a fair bit of overlap, right? So there is a fair bit of overlap. That's the obvious thing. Now, define that overlap. Well, in fact, if I look at it, here's 75% of A's data, and it's taller, bigger, further to the right than 50% of B's data, right? So there's our 3/4 half rule. So it's being applied. So 75% of A's data is bigger than 50% of B's data. That's what that's showing us. And the other thing is that the median, so if you look at B's median, it's outside the box of A. Don't have to have both medians outside the box for it to be significant. So B's median is outside the box of A. Now, between these two things that are happening, the 3/4 half rule is being applied here, and one median is outside the box of the other. This would suggest that in our sample that we're doing here, that there's a difference in heights, and that A, on average, are taller than B. That's what it's suggesting. And because our sample is suggesting that, then we might suggest that back in the population there's a difference in the median heights between A and B, and that A is taller than B. However, we know that taking one sample is not sufficient, and that because of sample variability, we can't just rely on that one sample to tell us what's going on back in the population. So we talk about sample variability. Due to sample variability, we can't be sure what's going on back in the population. If we were to take another sample, it could be quite different. It could be different in what way? It could be the interquartile range could be different, the median could be different, the mean could be different. More investigation is needed. And that's how you need to talk about the conclusion that you would make based on this. Now the third one, there's clearly a gap. There's no overlap whatsoever. And both medians are outside the box of the other. Clearly 75% bigger than actually 75%, so that's even bigger than the 3/4 half rule. So 75% here, bigger than actually 75%, bigger than 50%. So it's 3/4 bigger than 3/4 of the other graph. So this would suggest a little bit more strongly and clearly that there is a difference. On average, that the medians are bigger. B's median is bigger than A, and that back in the population, it's a strong suggestion that that would be the case. But again, we don't rely on one sample to tell us the full story about what's going on back in the population. It suggests that there's a difference in the average medians of these groups and the average heights. But I want to do more. I want to do more sampling, or I want to do more investigation to see if that's true. So again, this is a bit more clearly different in the sample, and then that would more clearly reinforce what's going on in the population, that there is a difference, and that B is bigger than A or taller on average. But we still have that whole sample variability thing that we have to be very careful of, and we have to explain that here.